said that about both our lives. Easy to make that promise. dream about him.
Their bad side and they'll destroy you.
No one would miss me.
That's not true. I would.
I've been having these weird thoughts lately. Like, is any of this for real? Or not? Whoa!
Gosh, it looks kind of different now.
Maybe everything we've done
lucky kid.
Okay, let's do this thing. All right. Hello, my friend. Oh, wait. I think I'm pushed to talking again. Fool me once.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right, there we go. We fixed it this time. Hang on, I gotta finish muting this banger of a Kingdom Hearts lo-fi. I have like 20 million tabs open, so I'm like, you know, navigating all this as best I can. So, hello everybody. Welcome to our Pixelbits live stream, the half-hour-ish show where we talk about really whatever's top of mind for you all. So a bunch of nerd stuff, right? D&D, Critical Role, Worlds Beyond Number, gaming, stuff in the news. Not like general news, but like gaming news, I guess. All that and more. And my friend, you got some monocles. I don't know a cool way to call it. I'm just calling them monocles, bifocals. You know,
There you go.
one of
Yeah,
those
monocle
days,
is just
huh?
the one.
That's true.
Yeah, you know, just sometimes switch it up.
Switching it up. I'm all about
Yeah.
it. I'm all about
Yep.
it. Well, what's going on today? How's your day going so far?
So far, so good. Friday, which is nice. Marathon, GDQ, wrapping up, which is sad, but still going for now.
Yep.
So I'm doing good, man. How about you?
Good. As is tradition, GDQ is ending tomorrow, and I have not been able to really watch much of it at all, which is extremely sad to me. Because every year I tell myself I will watch it next year or next time, and it never happens. So
Yeah, you just gotta carve out that time, or just use it as some background noise. You know,
yeah, true.
if your work flow allows it.
Yeah, some good runs today too. We got Super Mario Wonder a little later, little Resident Evils, and then tonight the Majora's Mask Relay run.
Ooh,
It's a 5-hour run tonight at I think it was like 9:30 or 9ish Central Time.
Oh wow,
That's going to be a good one.
yeah. So that's gonna be all night.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, I hadn't even looked at the rest of tonight. RE4, that should be good.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little bit of a longer one too. Nice.
It can be. Yeah, it can be.
Yeah, I haven't caught like I've had it on as background noise a lot this week, but I haven't like been able to focus on particular runs except for a couple.
Mm-hmm.
But there's been some really good ones. Like Resident Evil 2, you should check that one out if you go back and dive into any of them, because that one was really good.
My favorite, I've only watched a handful, but my favorite run in this one so far was the Super Mario Sunshine run yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Which the commentators just made it. They were so fun and enjoyable to watch. So it was just a high
I caught
energy.
like part of that one.
Oh, it was so good. They were so fun. The whole thing was great. I watched most of it, but missed a little bit in the middle. And also I realized how little of that game I beat, because there were parts where I was like, Yoshi's in this game? What? Like,
Yeah, but you got to Yoshi. You must have.
I guess
he eats the fruit and like throws up the whatever.
No, it didn't ring any bells, but I don't know. Maybe it's one of those late memories that is buried.
The 3D Mario games, and that one in particular with the water pack, are just so technical and fun to watch. Just the movement, you know.
Oh, I remember playing Super Mario Galaxy and being just like amazed how like just the whole concept of like going from world level to next
Yeah.
level, and how it was all like as planets that you could go around, and it was just incredibly cool.
I never played that one, and I know it's like one of the best ones.
You never
apparently.
played Super Mario Galaxy?
No. Or the second one, obviously, but
It was like one of the highest rated games of all time.
I know. I need to play it, but
in
I never
fact,
did.
In fact, well, I don't think people use GameRankings.com. This was like the website like forever ago. Okay, now it's Metacritic. Ooh, okay. Was it always Metacritic? I don't know.
Metacritic's existed for a while.
Okay.
Maybe they like bought GameRank or something.
Yeah, because now I'm wondering. That's pretty interesting. Okay, best games of all time. Yeah. So
Wait, let me guess what number 1 is.
Okay.
How recent is it?
It's all time.
No, but like how recent of a game is number 1? Just to give me like a hint.
It's a long time ago.
Oh. Is it a Zelda game?
You're on the right track. Here's the ultimate clue I'll give you.
Okay.
It is what has been the number 1 highest rated game of all time for at least 20 years.
Okay. That's tough. And I feel like it's a Zelda game. So I'm thinking it's either OOT or Link to the Past.
Will, I'm going to ask you to commit to one of those two answers. For all the marbles, what is the highest rated game of all time?
Ocarina of Time?
You're correct. Yay! You win my
Let's
love and
go.
respect, which you didn't have before this moment. So, yes, Ocarina of Time is the number 1 highest rated game of all time. And that has been the case since I was, a kid 10 years ago. I remember even like looking at this list and it was still number 1. Back then, I thought Super Mario Galaxy was number 2. It looks like that's not the case. It's number 4. Super Mario Galaxy is number 4, and Super Mario Galaxy 2 is number 5.
Wow.
So pretty dang good game.
Are those the highest Marios?
Those are the highest Marios. So we have at number 1, Ocarina of Time. At number 2, Soul Calibur. Random?
Which one?
Just the original, Soul Calibur.
Okay.
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 Number 3, this will make sense when I say it, Grand Theft Auto 4.
Okay, yeah.
Number 4, Super Mario Galaxy. Number 5, Super Mario Galaxy 2. And number 6, a game that, but you liked a lot.
Ooh. Breath of the Wild?
Yes. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So, good job.
Interesting. So wait, what is this based? Is this based on like? Is this like a Rotten Tomatoes-esque
Yeah. It's
aggregation
like
of ratings? Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep. 7, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3. 8, Red Dead Redemption 2, which I own and haven't played yet. 9, Grand Theft Auto 5. And 10, Metroid Prime.
I'm surprised there's not like a more recent. I guess Red Dead 2 is pretty recent, but like, surprised like Last of Us isn't on there.
Like game reviews, I feel like have changed a lot.
Yeah.
Like even like, some maybe it's Kotaku or IGN, or I can't remember who does it, but some studio or review sites like don't even do numbers anymore. They're just like recommend or don't recommend, which makes this a little bit of a different aggregation.
Yeah,
I guess.
That's true.
And I think over time too, you review games so long that like even sometimes you move from like a rubric to like more hipster style. Hipster's not the right word, but kind of like, here's how we do it.
Yeah.
We rate the verticality of the game, which like no one else thinks about, but
Yeah.
So, but yeah, kind of crazy, right?
Yeah, it is. And I don't want to like get too lost on this, but I'm curious now. How deep does that list go? Is it like 100 or?
Let's see. It goes down to page 545. The top 13,070th game is Outlast Trials.
Okay.
So
I was just well, that's too deep of a list to dive into, but I was curious
Yeah.
if you could see Elden Ring on there, if that was up near the top at all.
I can. I mean, I can.
I mean, we like I said, we don't need to like.
Elden Ring has a
Yeah.
96, which would be towards the top. That would put it. Let's see here. This has got to be. This is all 96s. Here we go. Wait, no, that's Elder Scrolls. Hang on. 96, 95. Okay, wait. Why is it not on this list? Oh, here it is. 27. Number 27 of all time. Which is amazing. Anything in like the top 50 you can know is an insane game. Baldur's Gate 2, number 34.
Ooh,
one of my top 5 all-time favorite games.
I got we, but also we need to play Baldur's Gate 3. Like,
yes. I thought you were going to say 2, and I was going to be like, my brother, yes. It's such a good game. But yes, we probably should play 3 also. It's a little bit more
I mean, I'm
relevant.
down to play 2 as well.
You know, stream content, 3 is probably a little bit more relevant than 2. But 2 was probably the first game that made me just love tabletop games, like ported to like digital. I played Baldur's Gate 1, Baldur's Gate 2, Icewind Dale. And this all came from the studio back then, I think was called like Black Isle Studios, I think. Icewind Dale 2, Neverwinter Nights 2. So yeah,
Divinity.
You could say, what'd you say to me? Yeah,
Divinity.
Did you know Divinity started as a Kickstarter?
Mm-mm.
I didn't know this.
That's interesting.
That apparently it was a Kickstarter. And the guy he's the founder of Larian Studios, like really loved these old school style games and wanted to make like a really powerful, like narrative driven one. And Divinity was a Kickstarter.
Huh. Today I learned.
Yeah. But
wonder how much the rights cost them.
For Baldur's Gate?
Or isn't Divinity like D&D IP, or is it not? It doesn't.
I don't think so.
Okay, never mind then.
I think Divinity is original content. Okay. I'm pretty sure. In terms of user score, I don't know how they rate this, but The Last of Us is number 1 in terms of user score.
The Last of Us 1?
Mm-hmm. How they define that, I have no idea. I feel like this is a little bit less valuable of a list. You have Jagged Alliance Wildfire. Never heard of it. It's in the top 10.
That's number 2?
It's number 8. WWE SmackDown.
Jagged Alliance Wildfire?
Yeah. Everlasting Summer is number 2. So this game has no critical reviews, but it's apparently number 2 of all time on user score. User score must be like some special Metacritic thing, I have to imagine.
Everlasting Summer looks like an anime,
like waifu
like,
kind of game,
like novel, like one of those novel games.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, what's going like that list?
Yeah,
I don't know about that list.
Not to have like a 15-minute bit that immediately gets undone by the user score section, but we'll just stick to the Metascore, which I'm pretty sure, since it auto-directed to Metacritic.com, I'm pretty sure this is what GameRankings.com was previously, which I'd totally forgotten about that website.
Yeah.
And then Baldur's Gate 3 is on here at number 20. So,
well,
rightfully deserved.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy. It's crazy because it continues to get not as much criticism, but like developer ire, or I'd say rather like studio ire. Mm-hmm. There was a video I saw recently of some dev who was like basically it's the same old song and dance. It was like, we don't get the same assets, resources, what have you. And Baldur's Gate 3 is the number 1 best-selling game on Steam, the highest revenue-generating game on Steam, which includes microtransactions, I think. And it's a MTX-free game. There's no
that's crazy.
DLC or microtransactions, but I'd like to think, does this mean this could herald in a new phase of gaming where it's all about the story and quality products? But, that'd be a little naive to believe in.
Yeah. I mean, it won't. I think that I think people will be inspired by this, and there will be more to do it. But like in terms of like the, industry as a whole, I don't have high hopes for, moving away from just the greed.
Yeah. A lot of greed out there.
There is.
Speaking of greed, Will.
Yes.
Well, I have nothing else to say about it.
My favorite of the 7 deadly sins.
But yeah. So anyway, typically if you haven't joined our live stream before, this is we love just to engage with you guys and answer questions you have, respond to comments, just interesting comments you have. Guys, for example, said Sunshine was hard. I didn't get very far. I adore Galaxy. It's so good. That was the original conversation that got us here. Which, by the way, Will, I looked. I'm guessing you didn't play Odyssey either, or did you?
No.
Wow.
I didn't.
So you're not a big Mario player.
I mean, I guess not, technically, I'm trying to think what.
I just let the silence.
I guess Sunshine, I guess, was the last one that I played a lot.
Yeah. Odyssey was pretty good. They haven't had a Mario game. They typically have one about every 7 years. And it's been about 7 years since Odyssey came out. So
right.
Could be due for a new one.
Did you play Odyssey?
I did. Yeah. It's a fun game.
You beat it?
I think I did. Yeah. It's one of those games where, which is my favorite kind of game, where you can beat it, but then you can go back and 100% it, get all the stars, get all the and Odyssey didn't just have stars, just like we saw in the Sunshine speedrun where you had the blue coins you could collect. Odyssey had something similar. You had this other currency you could collect as well. And the game had cosmetics, not paid cosmetics, but you could spend your coins to buy outfits in the game. So collecting all of those could also theoretically be a thing. So anyway, but other than that, what else has been going on? Have you? I guess I'll show you I think I showed you a little bit of what I was working on. So I had this D&D session Wednesday. On the stream, we had a live stream on Wednesday. I think it was Wednesday. Maybe it was Tuesday. I can't remember. On us designing a D&D combat encounter together, which thank you to you guys who joined that live stream. You gave some really great advice. Naturally, Will, I put all this prep into the combat session. My party did not get to it. So that's tabled. This is the way, right? Mm-hmm. But I've been trying to find. By the way, I still have your battle map. Your dry erase battle map.
Oh, nice.
So
is that just? I guess I just left that stuff there because we always met at your place.
Yeah, there was a time where Will was like, "I'll leave this here for next time," and then that was 8 years ago. Next time. Yeah. So I use it right now.
I'm glad it's getting use, or is it not getting use?
No, it gets used a lot. It's really helpful. Nice. But someone always trying to do things better. I was trying to figure out a way to make the tile set or the combat map a little bit more engaging. I think I told you about my buddy who we played on his table that was a digital screen, and he opened up what's the website? Not D&D Beyond.
Roll20?
Roll20, yeah. He opened up the Roll20 map that was there, and we could move our minis. So that was pretty cool, but also expensive, right?
Yeah.
So what I did was I got this new 3D printer for Christmas. Never realized how crappy my old 3D printer was, because printing one thing on my old printer would take 3 days. And I've printed a ton of stuff with this new one, and I have not had a single issue with it. But
nice.
You can't really tell, but I printed these little hexagon. Come on, focus camera. I'll just bring it back here. There it goes. These little hexagon tiles. And what I did was I painted them, and then I also 3D printed these grids, and I bought for $4 off Amazon. I bought these magnets here. And they pop in. Nice. Yeah, they pop in around here. And then I took those tiles and you pop them in to each of the hexagons like this. And then I painted it.
Yeah.
So it kind of looks like stone. But the cool thing is then the magnets then just, well, I'm trying to show how magnets work on a stream, but they pop together like that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And so you can mix and match it. And I got a few different ones I printed, and I'm going to 3D print a dirt tile and a bunch of wood tiles, and create different environments. But
you can just pop them out and swap them.
Yeah, they literally just pop right out.
Oh, nice.
You know, so kind of a cool thing. But we'll see.
Yeah, it
if
is cool.
My players like it. But I'm also
Did you get a chance to use it last week?
I just finished it on Wednesday. Like I stayed up till like Joy woke me up on the couch at like 3 a.m. because I was sleeping on the couch trying to listen for the printer to get done so I could start a new print before the session at night. So I was like working on it all the way up to the session, and then we didn't even need to do it.
Nice.
So,
oh, that's really cool though.
Yeah. So just looking for ways to make D&D a little bit more enjoyable for the players. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Have you seen some of those like insane setups like on social media that like people will post?
Mm-hmm.
It's like the whole room.
Yeah.
And they have like it's not even like a digital screen, but they have like it almost looks like a huge like pool table, like a table that's like indented, and it's like
a
the Lord of the Rings
right?
set.
Or is that we're talking about the ones that not epoxy, but like they do like resin to like create like different like
terrain and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty cool.
Just nuts, man. Like literally like tens of thousands of dollars into these setups.
Considering that I live from one grocery order to the next, I have decided that I likely will not indulge in something
maybe
like
one
that.
day.
Maybe one day. That's right. Yeah, it would be cool. Gaius asked, do you make hex maps instead of square maps? I'm indifferent, honestly. I like the hex ones just because it lets you kind of like pop things in any order. Like you can make every map kind of different. There's also like edges you can 3D print that fit into the hex that are flat on the other side, where you can make this a square. So like that's an option too. It's not a big deal. Pretty easy to print. The only pain point is like actually like priming all of them and then painting all of them. But then once they're done, you know, I have 120 of these stone tiles, so I'll do the same thing for wood and grass and what have you. But I've also realized I'm not very crafty in the sense of like, kind of like what you were talking about. I see like different videos of people who like, they buy like the foam and like the construction paper and like the glue and like they create like their own like tree fabric or whatever. And they build these amazing, like, you know, that'll just never be me. I've just learned I just don't have that skill set.
That's fair. You know, each their own.
Yeah. Kevin says, cheaper than a custom built table is just sticking a projector on your ceiling and aiming it down. I had a DM that did that and it was pretty cool. Pretty good idea.
You know, that would actually be legendary if you wheeled out like one of those things we used to use in school, you know, like the whole little projector thing, like in math class.
Those were called, oh man, what were those called?
Were they not just projectors?
Well, like it was called something else though. Cause like Kevin's talking about like a digital projector, but like we're talking about.
Yeah, I know that's not what he was talking about.
Yeah, but it was like a transparent almost thing, and like the light would shine through. So like you were ultimately like looking at like the shadow of it on the wall.
Yeah,
which is the same thing, right? But I can't remember what it was called though. It was called something.
No, but I'm just having vivid memories of those markers and weird. Kids don't have any idea what we're talking about. Like, how long has that not been a thing anymore? I bet.
I mean, I remember when.
I mean, maybe some schools still use it. Actually, you know, they don't get proper funding. I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. Probably like. Well, I think. I mean, you'd be surprised. I'd say probably more rural schools because even like relative overhead projector. That's what it was.
There we go.
An overhead projector. Yes. Even like some of the poorer districts, surprisingly, can have some pretty, if they're like a city district,
pretty nice stuff.
You can have like my districts when I was a teacher in Houston, like we had smart boards. So not every class did, but anyway. But I remember like the smart board being like the newest thing, like, whoa, you know, going from the overhead projector to that, where it was like, you can write on this. Dude, now some offices, like their walls are basically like whiteboard walls, like digital whiteboard walls, if that makes sense. Like it's
cool.
It's like a smart wall, but it just looks like a white wall, and like you can be like in a conference meeting, which in like a dystopian world can actually feels like a nightmare, but you can be like in a conference meeting where like you literally just start writing on the wall, and you know,
that's cool.
I don't know. Well, I don't know if we have any questions today. I don't think we do. I asked one, which I'd be curious to know y'all's thoughts, but also Will to get your thought. One of your favorite ways to engage the players at your table, where your players say, "Yeah, that was a good sesh," or they're like, "I want to come back. I want to keep playing." Which I think a lot of us, as whether we're playing D&D or DMing, we like campaigns that continue. We all know the pain of the campaign that dies after one session. It's like, we're going to definitely play again. And then it's like, you're not going to play again. But yeah, Will,
you're done.
What's one of your favorite ways to try to create that engagement with your party?
I mean, I don't have a wealth of experience, but from what the experience I do have, two things come to mind. And one, just like you were mentioning, when I play D&D, I do not have the fancy setup. It's very much theater of the mind, most of the time, in terms of having, like, I don't think I've ever had any set pieces. We'll sometimes have like figurines for players, but for the most part, that's like the extent of it. So I've noticed that when I have been able to like go above and beyond and like really surprise people with like physical set pieces, then that usually gets like a pretty nice reaction. But again, if you always have physical set pieces, that probably wouldn't be the case, so that's like one thing, like taking out like a big monster that like they just expected to be theater of the mind, but now it's there.
Yeah, I love that.
And then the other thing that came to mind is thinking of like ways to incorporate games into D&D. So like a great example is what that Matt did recently in Critical Role was the whole blindfold bit. So I've never done that, but like the same concept of like taking like a different, mechanic somehow and introducing it into the game. Like the last time I played, the players went to a bar that had a bunch of gambling. So like I invented a bunch of different like games that the players at the table could actually play, as opposed to being like, roll a d20, if you got an 8 you win. It's like, no, you have to like do this game in real life. So I feel like that usually gets a good response as well.
I remember playing in one of your sessions and we were like sitting around a campfire and you had like a cool card game.
Oh yeah,
that was here's what's funny is we talk about things that are like theater of the mind, and I think as a DM we're a little bit too hard on ourselves in thinking, I mean, this is everything like social media related, right? Like you see other people doing stuff that's like big and amazing and you think, if I'm not doing that, I suck. But you see Critical Role with like the massive set pieces. And honestly, I don't remember if you ever used a set piece in our campaign, but I remember vividly many combat encounters. I remember the cathedral that we navigated. I almost feel like there had to have been a set piece because I can like remember it so vivid. Not the set piece, but like I can remember like navigating it so vividly in my mind.
Yeah.
We fought a minotaur. I mean, and then there was like a flaming skull that we were like chasing after. I mean, it was just crazy. And again, I don't remember if there was any like physical pieces, and yet I remember it so well.
Yeah.
But I do remember that card game where like I think it was like if you pulled a certain card, you had to like tell a truth or tell a story, or I don't remember exactly the details. But
I don't remember either, but it essentially was like every player drew a card, and then based on like what number and what suit that card was, informed like a story the player had to tell. And so like some of the variances were one, it could be a lie. So like the story, like the player would have to make up a lie about themselves, or it's like a truth, or it's like a painful memory. Like that was kind of like the gist, and it was try to lubricate some RP.
Yeah,
was the idea behind it.
Yeah, that was a fun session. We always gave our players at the table a hard time though, because we've all played those D&D sessions where like people are there but they're not really engaged. And one of the jokes I tell Will is from that session where whatever detail I had, and I'm sure it was way like over dramatic, but it was like a detail that the party didn't know. Whatever card I drew, I had to tell the detail, and I was like, "Well, my wife and daughter are dead." And it was like kind of silent for a few seconds, and then someone was like, "Yeah, so anyway," I was like, All right, that one did
It
not.
was like this like big part of your character's backstory, and it
Yeah.
was like the first time it had been revealed, and just no one even like
Yeah.
blinked an eye at it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, cool.
That's cool. I'll just go over here then. But but yeah, incorporating games. I love that though. That's a great idea for sure.
What about in your experience? What have you had like the most reaction from?
I think for me, finding ways to incorporate details from my players' backstories, even if those details to you seem very subtle, I have found that sometimes my players will really run with those details and really make it feel personal. Like, I have one player who didn't really give me much for a backstory, but like it's honestly, sometimes it's the players who give me the least. I kind of see it as a challenge of like, all right, how can I really get you engaged in this game? But she gave me like almost nothing. I had this character, this NPC that you're familiar with, called the Red Raider, but just in name alone. And I made a reference to my player's father to try to create like a more like, because I knew her character was estranged from her dad in the game, not in real life. How do I break you as a player at my table? So I made some subtle detail, and then like a session or 2 sessions ago, she was like, "Guys, I have to tell you something. I think the Red Raider is my dad," which I was like, "Wait, what is it?"
So that wasn't like what you were
It wasn't
implying.
what I was thinking about at all, but like this subtle detail, like it got the wheels turning for her, which is what you want, right? I mean, I had another player who was from a backstory of like this, like these warmongers, and like in one of the first sessions, they found like a weapons cache, and in there was like a sword that had on the pommel like the inscription of that warmongering clan. So immediately he was feeling kind of gutted about like, oh, I was running away from that. And yet here, you kind of get the idea. So like little ways to kind of like draw people in to like make the story feel more personal for them. Otherwise, like, why did you do the backstory? I think sometimes it's really obnoxious to ask your players like, give me your backstory. And then, you know, it's like never a detail. And, you know, not that they have to create like something grand, but just like, I feel like I'm present in some ways. And, you know, you always have those players too, where like they give you the backstory and then you like mention their hometown, like in a session, and they're like, oh, cool. Where's that?
Yeah.
And you're like, that's where you're from, actually.
Yeah.
This NPC is really nice. You're like, do I like them? And like, that's your mom. Yeah. It's from your backstory. You gave it to me. Yeah. So, the other thing I try to do also is kind of like a Brennan Lee Mulligan spin on things. I try to make, I just try to make things as human as possible, if that makes sense. I guess as relatable as possible. And sometimes I think I do a good job with that. Sometimes I think I really flop on it. But, you know, I think we're living in this fantasy world, or we're playing in this fantasy world. And if it feels a little bit too on the nose, fantasy wise, you know, I kind of want my players to feel like, oh man, I can like really relate to that existential dread that is happening right now.
Yeah.
So
it's grounded.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way to think of it. So,
yeah, I think that's a great thing to strive for sure.
So
curious, are you going to make the Red Raider her father now?
I think so. I think I have to. Which is too bad because I had such a compelling story around this character, and like,
you're not still like
it's
merge the two?
No, because the origin, the genesis of the Red Raider was, which if my party's watching this, by the way, you better turn this off right now. I'm gonna get really pissed off because a lot of work went into this. The genesis of the Red Raider in the story was he was basically a teenager. Think of like the old school, like 1800s parents who, or not 1800s, maybe like 1900s, I guess, that would send their kid off to boarding school. I guess like 1980s, really, if you think about it. They'd send their kid off to boarding school, and like you'd never hear from them again, and there'd be like a lot of animosity and pain there. So the genesis of it was this oligarch, this person running the city who sent his son away and was like, I don't want to hear from you ever again. And the son eventually becomes the Red Raider. And not only becomes that, but eventually comes back to the town and kills his father. And the players, they encounter the dead father, but they don't know any of the context of who this person was, where they came from, and why. And it was going to be like this meaningful reveal down the road. But now I think since my player has signaled that she's really intrigued by this detail that her dad might be the Red Raider, I think I need to go all in on that. How do I connect them? I don't know. But I can't make it like, oh, and it's the son. It's like, well, wait, the math doesn't. How old was my dad?
I was going to ask, is it like an age thing that wouldn't make sense?
Exactly. It wouldn't really click.
What race is her character?
Oh, and that's the other thing. She's a water genasi, and the dad was human. So,
okay. I mean, not that you need to do this, but maybe you could, if you like absolutely wanted to marry the two somehow, introduce like a Feywild thing.
Ooh.
You know, so like that there was some weird time dilation, and maybe that's why she's a genasi and
that's interesting,
human or something.
I like that.
But no, I like the that's good DMing there to pivot to what you had planned to something that's going to make your player like more invested.
You have to, right? I mean, at the end of the day, the game is only as fun as the fun your players are having, and when your players don't want to come back, you're not having any fun because no one's playing with you anymore. So I think little things like that you really have to jump on. Guys said, do you ever develop things that one or more of your player characters would know about the world and give them some info before the session so they can sound knowledgeable? I do. I am running another campaign where it's basically magic is banned, and there are certain entities that sort of like patrol and ensure that magic isn't being used. One of my players is from this kingdom or from this order that does all of this. So in his character prep, I said, hey, you probably also want to know this about how the world operates. So I was feeding him information. But then also sometimes in a session, I'll just handle that above the board. Because what it does is it gives a certain player like a kind of a cool spotlight for a second. Like my wife was playing a character who was a mage, who part of her backstory was that she had like traveled the world looking for answers on like something that had happened. Well, the party arrived in this city with a grand library, and it wouldn't make sense that her character wouldn't have been here before. Right. So it didn't happen before the session, but like as I was introducing the city to them, her character's name is Winifred, and I said, hey, in Winifred, you would know that how this library is revered and like kind of how you operate around it, like what's kind of like kosher in terms of how you interact with it. So sometimes I'll handle that in the session, and now she feels cool because she's like, yeah, I would know that, even though she's learning it right there. And it's also a really easy way to just get out some info without like dragging down the session, if that makes sense. So, any other thoughts on that, Will, in terms of giving your players information or?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great thing to do. I think it makes the world feel more alive, like helps the world building that characters actually have knowledge about places that they should, and I like both ways. Like you said, I think if you know what's going to happen in the session enough to have the foresight and be able to plan and like give them that knowledge prior to going into the session, great. Like for example, in our campaign, we had a player join us like after 10 or so sessions, Ben. And so when Ben joined us, we were in a city. And so Ben was from that city. So I gave him like a cheat sheet of like all this information that like he would know about the city that none of the other ones did. But similarly, I think it's great to like in the moment above the board have those things too. Like you said, just to like make the players, have a little moment, like, spotlight.
I should have done that. We had somebody join my other campaign after it had gone on for about a year or so, and I didn't do anything like that. So he was just like, so who is this guy again? And then they're like, this is like the main guy. And he was like, okay, cool.
Nice.
Yeah. And then I remember also you were really good at those private sessions where like you and I would get on WhatsApp and Will would have kind of like these really meaningful story moments that would sometimes happen one-on-one. And then as a player, you'd have an opportunity to introduce that. Like I had an interaction with Will as the DM where he was navigating me basically the process for acquiring my familiar, which was a fox, I think. Worlds Beyond probably stole that from me.
They did.
And then I got a chance to think about how I wanted to introduce the fox in our next session. Now, again, if the players are like really engaged, they'll be like, wait, you have a fox now?
Yeah.
But then I think I introduced the fox. People are like, oh, cool, man. So anyway, you know, I was like, I didn't have this before. So anywho.
Yeah, I like doing stuff like that when it makes sense, especially at our table. Like Blake, as like you guys have maybe gleaned, wasn't the most like taking initiative to like jump on people's RP moments. So like I didn't want to have in a session like 45 minutes dedicated to one player while everyone else was just sitting there. So instead, at like the end of the session, we'd be like arriving at a town, and the idea would be like, okay, you have 2 days. You know, now you guys might do stuff together, or if you want to do stuff on your own, talk to me one-on-one and we can kind of play that out. So then like outside of the session, like Blake mentioned, we would get into WhatsApp and kind of have like a one-on-one RP sesh. So then the next time we all did get together and sit down, it's like, oh, what have you guys been up to in this town for the last 2 days type of thing.
Mm-hmm. It's very intimate.
Was.
All right. Well, we are coming to the end of our stream today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Always, if you have any questions or comments, you can drop them in our, I think I actually tagged the D&D channel by mistake. I'm not sure. But in the Pixelbits live stream channel, which is in our Discord. So if you're not in the Discord, you definitely want to jump into that. Or you can always just tag us or comment on one of our videos, and we'd be happy to bring up your question or comment at our next live stream. Other than that, we got GDQ wrapping up tomorrow. Really excited about that, and sad. Will, anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'll be probably chilling in GDQ for as much as I can for the end here. So if anybody else is watching, feel free to hop on to the Discord or my Twitch chat, which I won't be streaming, but we've been using that. A few of us have been using that to kind of just chat and hang out if we're both watching GDQ. So if anybody's going to be, you can probably find me over there. So that's all I got.
All right, friends. Well, we will catch you all later. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, y'all. Have a good weekend.